Storytime on how I found my daughter without even looking for her.
When I was 15, I got pregnant by who I thought was the love of my life. But as soon as he found out that I was pregnant, he said he didn't want anything to do about it and that if I wanted, I could get an abortion. I'm not gonna lie, I was thinking about it. I decided to tell my mom. I was scared at first, but then I remembered my mom and I have a really good relationship. And she told me I had 3 options. I could have the baby, I could have an abortion, or I could have the baby and give it up for adoption. I decided to have the baby, which later on I found out it was a girl, and then give her up for adoption because I wasn't going to be able to give her the life that she deserved. And I said that maybe in the future, I would look for her, explain to her what happened, and tell her that I could be a part of her life if she wanted me to. Well, in 2015, I was able to open my own little coffee shop where I hired 3 employees. By that time, I was married and had 2 wonderful toddlers. Well, from the 3 employees that I hired, one of them was my daughter, but I didn't know it at the time. Running out of time, follow me for part 2. I found my daughter that I gave up for adoption without even looking for her. Well, since it was a small business with only 3 employees and me, I had a close relationship with employees. But I had a close relationship with, let's call her, Julia. The reason why we had such a close relationship was because she did share with me that she was adopted. And obviously I shared with her that I did give up a baby for adoption. And she never judged me. She always told me that she would do anything to find her biological mother. This girl was raised right. Well, I shared with her all the details on why I gave my baby up for adoption and that I would love to meet that baby one day. Well, behind my back, she decided to investigate. I don't know how, don't ask me. 3 months later, she came in with some paperwork, told me that she was my daughter, with tears in her eyes. And well, I obviously busted out crying as well. I asked her to forgive me and I told her why it all happened. She told me those weren't sad tears, they were tears of joy. Said she never hated me, and now we're in each other's lives. How crazy. Storytime on how I got revenge on my best friend for sleeping with my boyfriend. So back in June 2019, I was on Tinder, that's where I met my boyfriend. We hit it off right away. And obviously, I shared the details with my best friend. Or so I thought she was my best friend. Well, at that time, she was also on Tinder. My best friend is bi, by the way. Well, 3 months into my relationship, I started having a gut feeling about her. Let's call her Sarah. Every time my boyfriend came over, she started acting weird. And when I say weird, I mean she was acting all flirtatious with him. But again, I didn't think anything of it because she's my best friend. Well, one day I invited her for dinner. And I also invited my boyfriend. By the way, this dinner was at my house. And for that dinner, I wore a dress. Just because it was a special dinner for my friend and my boyfriend. And she wore a cocktail dress. Like a dress that you would wear to a casino. Here's a picture of the dress. Well, I pulled her aside, told her that her dress was extra. Follow me for part 2. Getting revenge on my best friend for sleeping with my boyfriend. Well, she said that I was crazy because that was just a normal dress. She told me not to be jealous because I was her best friend. I explained to her that I wasn't jealous, but that I've seen her actions in front of my boyfriend and they're very concerning. Well, whatever. We decided to have dinner. We had a good time. She left and my boyfriend stayed over. And I had to work. Well, he was gonna stay over and wait for me to get home from work. The next day, I head off to work. When I got back, I saw my best friend's car outside, ran inside to my apartment, found them hooking up, broke up with him, but here's the good part. I decided to get back at her. I opened up a Tinder as a girl looking for a serious relationship because I know that's what she wanted. I matched with her. We messaged for about 6 months. She was deeply in love with me. She was even talking about moving in together and she didn't even know me in person. We decided to schedule a date where we would move in together. She paid for a deposit and everything for the apartment. Well, that day came and well, obviously I never showed up. How embarrassing for her. Storytime on how I became the most hated person in my family. Because I found my dad sleeping with my aunt, and I was not going to stay silent. So my aunt, let's call her Jenny, lived at my house. She was the disappointment of the family, didn't have a job, had 2 kids, wasn't taking care of her kids. Just a total mess. My mom decided to take her in because she wanted to help and she wanted to get her life straight. At first my dad didn't like it, but he had to deal with it because my mom told him to. She always said family is family and you can't give family your back. Well, maybe she should have done that. Because one day that I was supposed to be picked up by my dad from school, well, apparently he forgot. And my best friend's mom had to drive me home. And I'm knocking and knocking on the door. No one answers the door, but I do see my dad's car outside. So I'm wondering what the hell is he doing? So I decided to call his phone and I hear it ringing, but he won't answer. Follow me and come back for part 2. Well, I ended up finding my dad in 4K with my aunt. I went through the back door because I remembered that my mom always left an extra key in the back door. We were doing the dirty on my mom's bed. The worst part is that my aunt was laughing. but my dad did feel bad. He did get up right away. I called my mom, told her what happened, and you guys know what she said? She said that I was making the whole thing up, that my dad would never do that, and that my aunt and him always hated each other, so she couldn't do that either. She came back home that day. My dad denied the whole thing, said that I was lying for attention, and that's why my whole family hates me now. They said that I tried to ruin my mom and her sister's relationship, and that they can't believe anything I say. And yes, my mom is still with my dad. I'm waiting till I have enough money to move out because I just can't believe my mom didn't even believe me.
Storytime on how my high school bully became my stepdaughter. A little backstory, let's call my bully Stephanie. Well, Stephanie loved to bully me in high school. There wasn't a reason other than she just did not like me. And I was very, very innocent, so I let her bully me. She even made up a rumor that I had an STD. That's how bad it was. Well, after high school, I decided to go to college for a year, but then I dropped out. I started working at a law firm, where I met my soon-to-be husband. And of course I didn't know it was her dad. I was working at the law firm only part-time, so I didn't spend much time with him, but we did fall in love really, really quick. We went out on dates first, and he did tell me he had a daughter, but he never showed me a picture of his daughter because he said he didn't have a good relationship with her. Well, for his birthday, we went out to dinner, and he did tell me that his daughter was going to be there. So I wanted to make a good first impression. Follow me for part 2. My high school bully became my stepdaughter. Well, we arrived at the restaurant and she still wasn't there. We knew that she was going to come in a little later. Well, about 30 minutes later, I see Stephanie walking towards me, and I was so confused. I thought she was going to come and say hi to me. And when she saw me next to her father, shit went down. We were at a very fancy restaurant. Well, she asked her father, let's call him Ben, what is she doing here? And he told her to not disrespect me like that because I was his fiance. Mind you, I was laughing because this shit was hilarious. Well, before she stormed out of the restaurant, she told her dad to never talk to her again and said that she would never forgive him. Well, long story short, he did ask me why she said that because he was a little curious of why I was laughing. I explained to him that she was my bully in high school and that she terrorized me for 4 years. And our wedding is in July. Okay, story time and disclaimer, this is not my story. I'm reading it right off my email. This is a crazy one, guys. Story time. I'm sexually attracted to my sister. I'm gonna just read it raw for you guys. Okay, I'm sexually attracted to my sister and I don't know what to do. Let me just say, yes, we have the same mom and dad. She's older than me by 4 years. I started feeling this way after my dad left. So apparently her parents are divorced. I went through a lot because of my parents' divorce, and she, let's call her Olivia, was there for me every step of the way. A very long recovery. Let me explain. She slept in the same bed as me. She would feed me. Again, I was badly depressed. Well, she would cook for me and even had to bathe me once because I went a whole week without even changing my pajamas. Understandable when you're depressed. I'm running out of time. Follow me for part 2 because this story time is crazy. Again, this is not my story. I'm sexually attracted to my sister, part 2. This is not my story. This is a raw story time. I'm reading it right off my email. This part is just going to be really short. Okay, so the last part was I went a whole week without even changing my pajamas. Understandable because you're depressed. That's when it started. I feel the need to tell her, but I know it will ruin our relationship. Girl, this is very wrong, but my desire is very strong. I mean, that rhymed, girl. That rhymed, but sweetie, what are you doing? What are you doing, sister? Okay, what do you guys think? Like, I don't even know.
Hey guys, so today we decided to drive down the most haunted road in my state. This road is famous for the amount of people that have died on this road. Your car can be known to shut off in the middle of this road, your brakes can stop working, or your car will all of a sudden speed up. Like when you're taking one of these turns, your car will speed up and you'll run into a tree. That is how most people have died on this road. One of the rules on this road is if you see an animal in the middle of the road is to turn your car around and head back. Another one of the rules on this road is to never look behind you. I decided to do this, and as soon as I turned around, I felt violently ill, and my neck started to hurt. Around this corner behind a hill, we saw a bunch of boxes and clothes just laying on the ground. and on our way back home, we were talking about how if you ever see somebody on the road, you never stop. And as we said this, there was a man walking down the road that was transparent. Part 2 of going down the scariest road in my state. So as we were going on the road, we all felt extremely nauseous again. And when I say this road is pitch black, like look at this. And as we were driving, we noticed a truck following behind us without any headlights on. And you're probably like, why didn't you drive faster? And that's because so many people have died from speeding on this road. And as we were driving, we did come across another car coming down the road. And the truck was still behind us at this point and even flashed their brights at us in this video right here. And if you guys notice anything creepy in the woods, let me know. We eventually ended up getting to the end of the road and we made a U-turn and we decided to follow the truck this time so they could get a taste of their own medicine. It ended up being 2 kids our age, so I don't think we had anything to worry about. Now, one of the rules on this road is to never look behind you. I was joking around and I decided to look behind me, and as soon as I did, a deer ran across the road and we nearly hit it. For the rest of the night, we all felt extremely uneasy, but we're planning to go back soon. Part 3 of going down the scariest road in my state. So today we decided to go during the day down this road to show you guys how it really is not a scary road during the day. It's so crazy how at night this road will give you the worst vibes and make you want to throw up, and you'll see things that you didn't want to see, but during the day it's one of the most beautiful roads I've ever been on and there was nothing but good vibes. But besides all of this, the other night I had a couple of my friends go down here, and when they went it was around midnight, and their car ended up stalling on the road, which means everything in the car locked up and it wouldn't move. But no matter what time of day it is, whether it's light outside like it is here or it's dark outside, you never look behind you on this road because you might see something you don't want to see. But I just find it so crazy how when this place is lit up, it's not even scary. But as soon as the sun goes away, it makes all the difference.
So I just remembered this story. This happened last summer, but oh my god. So in the summer, me and my boyfriend loved to go to this certain park. We walk around in the trails, we played baseball, just everything. So one day we decided to go there. And the time we went, it was around like sunset, so it wasn't dark, it wasn't light out, it was just in between. So as we're pulling up to the park, we see a white truck sitting in the parking spots. Didn't think anything of it. We're like, maybe they're on a walk, whatever. So we pull off to the back of the park, and we're sitting there talking, getting our stuff together, whatever, when we notice this white truck starts driving towards us. And not fast. I'm talking at 2 miles an hour, like literally like that fast. So I tell my boyfriend we need to leave because this does not look like good news. So we immediately fucking drive off, and we drive off right past them. And as soon as we do, they turn off their car. So we end up leaving the park for a good 2 hours, and then we end up going back to the park, and the truck is still sitting there. So it's late in the night, and we drive past the park, and we notice the same white truck sitting in this parking lot. The weird thing is that we had been gone from that park for 2 hours, and it was still sitting there, right where they turned off their car. So we drive really slowly past the park, just like watching this white truck. And as soon as this truck saw our car, they turned their car on and started leaving the parking lot. Once again, going about 2 miles an hour. Now, I live really close to this park, so we knew not to go into my neighborhood because then he would know where I live. So when I say my boyfriend sped down that road, I mean, my head was pushed up against the seat like this. So we end up speeding off, and we eventually lost the truck. We never saw it again. To this day, I don't know why he was coming up to our car, why he followed our car, why he was waiting at the park for almost 2 hours. All I know is that it couldn't have been good news. It couldn't have been good. So stay safe out there.
I'm gonna say it, I used to be a pick-me girl. In middle school, I was the definition of pick-me girl. So I'm gonna tell you guys a story from my pick-me girl era. So we were in 8th grade art class, and I was sitting with the boys because I just don't like other girls. I just don't get along with other girls. So I'm sitting at this table, all guys, not a single girl. And I'm talking to them and I'm like, I'm just like so stupid. Like, I don't know why I'm in AP history class. I'm just a dumb blonde bitch.
So they're like, oh, okay, we'll quiz you on history shit to see if you're actually stupid.
So I said yes, and I answered all of the questions wrong on purpose to be like, quirky. I'm gonna reenact it for you.
What language do they speak in Mexico?
Like Mexican?
That was real. I said that. How many continents are there?
Florida, like all the 50 states, right?
My neighbors are snitches. So yesterday I was really bored, so I just decided that I would drive around my neighborhood. So I got in my car, I was warming it up, whatever, and I see my neighbor staring at me through their window. So I'm like, is this dude really about to say something? So I just ignore him. I'm like, do whatever you want to do, I don't care. And I pull out of my driveway and I drive off. 2 seconds later, I see my neighbor's car following me. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe they're just leaving the neighborhood. Maybe they're going to the store or something. Maybe they're not even following me. So I take a left, they take a left. I take another left, they take another left. To the point where I make a whole circle and they keep following me. So I'm like, these bitches are really following me right now. So I did 2 more circles around the neighborhood, still were following me. Up until I pulled into my driveway and they sped off. I love having nosy neighbors. So last night, I got the shit scared out of me. So last night, I was hanging out with my boyfriend, having a good time. And it was around 9 o'clock and he had to drop me off. So on the way back to my house, I got this really bad feeling in my stomach. I just felt really uneasy and I just had like a pit in my stomach. So when we pull up to my house, I asked my boyfriend if he could just sit outside for a minute because I felt a little uneasy. And obviously he said yes. But as I'm walking up to my front door, I hear somebody scream. And I don't mean the type of scream that's like, ah! I mean the type of scream that's like, ah! You know what I'm saying? So I run over to my boyfriend's car and I'm like, did you just hear that? And he's like, nah, I didn't hear shit. So I just tell myself I'm hearing things. Flash forward, it's later in the night around like 1 a.m. and I start having really bad paranoia. So I'd go out into the kitchen to get me some water when I look into my dad's room and I see glowing eyes staring back at me.
Like right here.
So I just ran back to my room and it only gets worse.
So last night, something extremely scary happened to me. So me and my boyfriend were out all day yesterday at dinner. And by the time we were done with dinner, it was around 10 o'clock at night. And the place we ate at was like kind of deep in the woods, kind of in a rural area. And we had an hour drive home. So we're driving home listening to music when we go down this extremely sketchy road. It just gave off really bad vibes. So as we're going down the road, we see a possum run across the road. And it's a long story, but possums are not a good sign for me. Every time I see a possum, shit hits the fucking fan, paranormally. So at that point, I tell my boyfriend to hurry the fuck up. I said, we need to get the fuck off of this road. And as we're leaving the road, we see a guy walking down the side of the road in all black. But when I turned around to look at his face, there wasn't a face. It was a black silhouette, like a shadow. When I say we went down that road 100 miles. So I got followed home last night. So last night I was staying at a friend's house. And I decided I wanted to spend the night at my house, so I asked if she could drop me off at my house. She said yes, so her, my other friend, and me all got in the car and headed to my house. On the way to my house, I felt an extremely uneasy feeling. I felt like I was gonna throw up and I had the unexplainable urge to cry. But the craziest part about this is that all of my friends in the car also had this feeling. So we're literally about to pull into my neighborhood. And at this point, I'm literally about to cry because I just have a really bad feeling. And as we're entering the street to my neighborhood, this car pulls over, lets us go in front, and then goes behind us. Now this set us all off because as soon as they went behind us, they were riding our ass. So we obviously decided not to pull into my neighborhood, and this car followed us for about 2 miles. Personally, I think that was a sign not to go home. I don't know why I wasn't supposed to go home last night, but I'm happy I didn't.
So it's another day at VS, but this time it's semi-annual sale. If you've never shopped the semi-annual sale, it means that bras, panties, fragrances, clothing, swimwear, everything goes on sale at VS. Well, certain items get marked down for really good prices. But Victoria's Secret loves to plaster these signs that say $3.99, $14.99, and in very tiny letters at the bottom of the sign, it'll say the words, "and up." This means that all the panties in the bin are not $3.99. They're $3.99 and up. They can be all the way up to $7 or $10.99. Same thing for the bras. It'll say $14.99, but the most expensive bra could probably be $34.99. So this lady comes over with her bag full of sale items, full of panties, full of bras. She's too busy to be bothered with me, so I'm just rigging up her items. She's not even paying attention to the screen. Finally, I announce her total as being around like $400 or $500, and she is in shock, like, wait, what? Part 2 is coming. So I kindly explained to this lady that everything in the bin was $3.99 and up or $14.99 and up, so the prices may vary. She gets pretty annoyed. She's like, I went and picked up all this stuff, and the sign says that it's $3.99 and $14.99. That's the price I want it for. I'm not taking anything else. I'm already like, here we go.
So I say, Miss, I'm really sorry about the confusion, but the prices are marked on the individual tags, despite what the sign says. I said I can go through the bras and possibly look for the ones that are $14.99 and all of the panties that are only $3.99 if that will make you happy. But no, that wasn't good enough for her. She's pretty annoyed, and of course, as per usual, she wants to speak to a manager, and I kindly tell her the sale price is a sale price. Unless it goes down, that's what it is. First, she says, I'm not going to take any of it. Delete it all. I say, okay. Then she decides, just kidding. After I've already deleted it, she wants it all again. So it's another day at VS. We had a promotion for a free bag. If you spend $75, then you get a free bag or free tote. That's something that often happens at VS. So this lady comes in and she's super excited. She's shopping around, racking up her bill so she has enough money to get a free tote. Little does she know, I'm at the register giving away my last free tote. She comes up to me like, hey girl, I got my bag full. I got my 75. I'm ready to get my tote. I'm like, I'm so sorry, miss. I actually just gave away the last one. You would have thought I just told her that I murdered a family member of hers because she was tight. And she's like, oh, really? So what are you about to give me? Because I'm spending $75 today. So what do I get for free? She's like, a shirt? A perfume? I need something. I'm not leaving without it. Like, miss, I'm sorry, we don't have it. It's up to you if you want to spend the $75, but we have no more gifts. It's while supplies last. So after debating back and forth with her, like, I'm sorry, I can't just give you a free perfume. I can't just pick a shirt off the wall and give it to you. If you look at the coupon, it's this promotion is only while supplies last. So she's like, well, can you call some of the other stores? I want to see if they have the free bags left. I'm like, sure, I mean, I guess I can call, but they're not going to let you just come to the store and get a free bag. You have to spend the money at their store. She dismissed that idea pretty quickly after she realized that she would have to go from our mall to another mall to possibly get this bag. And she didn't have any time to drive. So she just decides to refuse to leave the store until somebody gets her something, because she is just so entitled. Of course, I have to get my manager involved, and he's like, look, let's just get this lady out of the store. Give her something. What do we have back here? So I'm digging behind the register, and we just so happen to find this old tote bag, not the one that we were promoting, an old one. So she spent the $75 and got that random tote bag just to keep her quiet. So it's another day at VS, and I'm behind the register as usual. This lady comes in and she says, I want to make a return. You know what? Maybe even an exchange if you have something that I like. So I'm like, what is it that you wanted to return today, miss? And I'm noticing that sis is empty-handed. She has nothing with her. She's like, I need a new bra. The one that I have is just really not working for me. I hear that all the time. So I'm like, okay, of course we can get you a new bra. Which one would you be interested in? With the quickness, she reaches behind her back, under her shirt, unclasps her bra, pulls the straps down, and pulls the bra from underneath and plops it on my table. Thank God for VS tissue paper, because I had to touch that dirty, nasty bra. It had stains. There was a stench. I just really could not believe that sis really took off her bra and put it in front of me, looking the way it looked and smelling the way it smelled. No tag, no receipt, worn. Do you think my manager let her return it? So I'm looking at this dirty, stinky bra, and I'm like, what am I about to do? So I'm picking it up with tissue paper, I'm analyzing it, and finally I'm looking in at the date and I see that it's an old bra that we don't even make anymore. But you know, VS will pretty much take anything back because they love to keep their customers happy. So, you know, I have to call my manager on the walkie and get his permission. He has to take a look at it, but as per usual, we took it back. And she went home with a brand new bra. And to be honest with y'all, I'm happy because that bra was filthy and dirty and smelly and she needed a new one. I said, sis, you should probably pick up a few before you go. But it is what it is. I'm happy she got a new bra, but please don't return nasty, dirty, used items. Like, it's so gross and I hated having to deal with that when I worked at VS. If you have a question about VS, a question about my story, leave it in the comments below. Also, follow me for more VS horror stories. So one time I'm behind the register and this lady comes in. She wants to make a payment on her Angel card. She wants to pay $50. Me and this lady were having a really nice exchange. We're chopping it up. It's going well. While she's like rummaging through her bag and stuff, I see the $50, then I don't see it again. Eventually, it's just me and her looking at each other like,
had to leave, I just couldn't bear to stay. Nothing's back in its place for me anyway. I wanna see what's hiding across the sea. If there is something out there for me. Take a train, ride a cab, catch a flight. travel daytime into the night. All alone, grab a backpack and light. That's what life should be all about. Go to Paris, London, Amsterdam, New York, Miami.
I'm waiting for her to give me the money, right? She's like, okay, go ahead, put it through. And I'm like, you didn't give me anything. I'm waiting for you to hand me the money. She's like, no, I gave it to you already. I'm like holding my hands up. I'm like, no, miss, you really didn't give me anything. She's like, you're lying. You stole it from me. You're trying to trick me. I'm like, ma'am, we have been right in front of each other this whole time. Where would I have put it? I'm standing right here. I never moved. I'm literally lifting up the tissue paper, showing her like, look, there's nothing. I have nothing. Like for part 2. Hey guys, this is finally part 2. Did I steal this lady's money? Wait and see. So basically, after me like lifting up all the tissue paper, showing her, look, I have nothing. I didn't move from your site. Like, look up. Hello, there's cameras everywhere. I can't just take money and put it in my pockets. Like, what do you think this is? She's like, get your manager over here. I'm like, bet. Can I please have a manager to the cash wrap ASAP? She explains her side of the story to the manager. I'm like, look, please, I have nothing. Go check the camera. My manager's like, okay, I'm gonna go check the cameras. Then we have another awkward stare off where like, she's like, finally my manager comes back and she's like, look, she didn't take your money. I saw it on the camera. She took nothing. And I'm like, now what? She doesn't apologize. She says nothing. She just takes her bag and she leaves. But I'm not a thief. One time I was behind the register at Victoria's Secret. This customer walks in and immediately everybody spots her as a red flag. She's just picking up items, throwing them in her bag, not looking at sizes, not looking at colors. So everybody's like, everyone's on their walkie like, watch this customer. She's coming to the fitting room. She's headed to the cash wrap. Somebody get her. Check her ID. Get her. Get her. She has a bag full of stuff. And guess who gets her at the register? Me. So she comes to my register and she dumps out her stuff and, you know, we're having a regular conversation. Hi, how are you? Yada, yada, yada. Her total comes up to probably between $700 to $900. It was expensive. My manager is at the register next to me talking to me on the walkie. Ashley, make sure you get that ID. Don't matter what she's using, make sure you get that ID. So I ask her for the ID because she's paying credit. Why do you need to ask for my ID? Just take it, run it. I'm like, no, ma'am, I'm sorry. I need your ID for the purchase. She starts to raise her voice at me. So she's raising her voice at me. And I'm like, let me, but I couldn't. I just couldn't, y'all. So I was like, I can raise my voice too. Do you want to play this game? Because I'll win, promise. And she's like, oh, well, what time do you get off work? And I'm like, I'm closing. I'm actually getting off at 11. Would you like to pick me up? And then she calls me stupid. She's like, you're fucking stupid. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna eat that. Then she calls me a dumb bitch. Whew. So I took a deep breath. And I said, fuck you, you dumbass bitch. Your broke ass can't even afford these motherfucking clothes and you over here trying to scam me. Fuck off my line. And honestly, me and her just started going back and forth at each other like, My manager's like, go to the back. Go to the back, go to the back. I'm still cursing her out as I'm walking to the back of the store. I really thought I would get fired, but I actually didn't.
Hands down, the craziest story I'm ever going to tell you. And before I get into it, it's incredibly important that you remember that everything I'm going to tell you is true and happened exactly this way. In 8th grade, I had a teacher, Mrs. B, and she could read my mind, and I found out the hard way. So I had her for English and history back to back, 7th and 8th period. And my best friend Candy, who lived directly behind me, also had her for English and history back to back, but she had her in the morning. So at lunchtime, we would sit around and we would talk about whatever was going to happen in her class. Like Candy would give me the heads up. Like if we had a pop quiz, she would tell me what the questions are. And about halfway through the school year, I'm looking out the window and there's a little bit of a car accident. Now, Mrs. B can't see that from where she's sitting, but she gets up and she goes to the window and she's like, I hope everybody's okay. And I'm like, that's weird. You couldn't see that. And then another day I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about how I want pizza for dinner. And then she announces to the class, we're going to have pizza for dinner at my house. I'm like, what? But then it started getting more serious. So I hadn't done an English assignment and neither did Candy. And so when we got to lunch that day, I'm like, what happened? Did we have a pop quiz? What's going on? And she's like, no, actually, I don't think anybody did the assignment. So she just lectures the whole time. You don't have anything to worry about. Well, I get to her class and I'm staring at her and I'm like, ha ha ha, you don't know. I didn't do the reading. I'm just going to sit here all period. The bell rings. She looks right at me and she says, take out a piece of paper. Pop quiz. What? But then it got really serious. So one day at the end of class, 8th period, we had a fire drill and we were on the 2nd floor. So we had to go down the hall, down the stairs, up the hill, wait outside, and then come back in, up the stairs to our classroom. So we do all of that. And then she gives us free time because it's the end of the day. And I look over at her and she's like using an inhaler and she's having a hard time breathing. Now I'm like 12 and I'm thinking to myself, you know, if you took better care of yourself, you might not have these breathing issues. And right then she locks eyes with me and starts sobbing. So I freak out and I go home. Now I've been telling my mom all about this along the way and my mom's like, you're crazy. And I'm like, no, she can read my mind. I know it. My mom's like, well, then you got to prove it somehow. So we come up with this plan that I'm going to think of a word and I'm going to chant it over and over and over until it drives her insane. And then she's going to have to say something. So I come up with the word popsicles because like, who's going to say the word popsicles? So I go to 7th period and I sit down and I don't tell Candy any of this. Okay. So I get to 7th period and I sit down and I don't say the word out loud, but popsicles, popsicles, popsicles in my head over and over. We get a break. We come back 8th period. I'm not even listening to the assignment. I'm just thinking popsicles, popsicles, popsicles. Now I know that I've never said the word out loud. So the time of the end of the day is like dwindling down and it becomes like 10 minutes before the end of the class period. Mrs. B says, hey, don't you have to go get Candy? She had broken her ankle and I was like her buddy to like meet her at her locker and help her get out of the school building and into our carpool before all the kids came and like trampled her. So I was like, oh yeah, is it okay if I pack up now? She's like, yeah, get out of here. So I get all my stuff and I'm walking to the door and Mrs. B goes over to the window and she's sitting down and she's looking out the window and she says, you know, class. And I stop and I look at her because that's respectful. And she says, with all of this snow and ice outside, I really wanna... And she snaps her head and she locks eyes with me and she enunciates the word popsicle. I swear to you, I swear that happened and I'm going to have to post part 2, but it'll be up right now. Popsicle, the greatest story ever told. If you didn't watch the first part, it's posted right before this. This is going to ruin it for you. You're going to want to know the whole story. If you keep watching this, don't watch it. Stop right now. Go back. Okay, so she doesn't just say the word popsicle. She enunciates it. Popsicle while locking eyes with me. Okay. I feel the blood rushing out of my body. I just back out of the class, book it down the hall, get down the stairs, get to Candy's locker. Again, I'm like 12, 13 years old. I have a freak out. I'm like, popsicle. She's like, popsicle. We can't go to school anymore. She can hear her thoughts. Oh my gosh, we have to quit. We have to quit. Candy's like, what are you talking about? So I try to fill her and I try to explain it. She's like, this does not make sense. We get to the carpool. The carpool mom is there. I tell her the whole story. She's like, you must have misunderstood this woman. I'm like, I did not misunderstand her. Every person that gets in the car, I tell them the story. They also think I'm crazy. I'm like, no, we need a petition. We need to talk to the principal. We need to remove ourselves. I'm never going back to her class. So we get home. This is before cell phones. I get to the house. I drop my backpack. I book it to the landline. I call my mom, my ally, and I tell her, she said popsicle. My mom's like, no way. I'm like, what do you mean no way? Why would I lie about that? My mom's like, this is just too crazy. Like, there must be a misunderstanding. Also, I'm at work. I can't talk to you. I'll be home in a little while. So in the meantime, I call every person I know. If I have your phone number, I'm calling you to tell you the story. And if you're not there, I tell whoever picked up the phone the entire story, okay? I run out of people to call. I get the phone book. I get to the white pages. I'm just flipping through, calling whoever I can. If it's the wrong number, I don't care. I'm telling you the story. I see my elderly neighbor. She's out on her porch. I go pay her a visit. I tell her the story. Nobody believes me. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. My mom comes home. She sits me down. She's like, okay, start at the beginning. I tell her the whole thing. And she's just like, huh. I like honestly don't know what to tell you at this point. And I'm like, you can tell me I'm not going back to school because I'm not. And I'm definitely not going to her class. And I'm talking to the principal and my mom's like, whoa, none of that is happening. You are going back to school. We're not calling the principal. Like, this is just like, I don't know. You're just gonna have to move on with your life. Okay. This is just one of those life things. And I'm like, you're crazy. So I took a shower. I go to bed. I'm like crying myself to sleep. The world does not understand me. My mom knocks the door. She comes in to check on me and she's like, I just want to see how you're doing. And I'm like, how am I doing? I'm in 8th grade. My teacher can hear my thoughts. How do you think I'm doing? You can take me to school, but I'm not going to her class. Just so that we're clear, you can drop me off, but you can't make me go. And mom's like, okay, this is getting out of hand. I'm like, yeah, I know. Thank you. And she says, yeah, so the thing is, today, during her lunch period, I called Mrs. B to see if she wanted to play a joke on you. Yep. My own mother. My own mother. And just to recap, my mother called my 8th grade teacher to tell her that I thought that she could read my mind. She gave her all of that information. And then they went through with the prank. handful of gap years between high school and college. So when I eventually went back to college, I was a little bit older than a lot of my classmates. And I went to school in Manhattan. And I met a girl in one of my classes who we hit it off, and we found out that we lived in the same neighborhood, which is a big deal when you live in Manhattan. So we're talking, and she says, hey, I'm having a party this weekend. You should come. I'm like, great. She adds me on Facebook. She adds me to the invite. I go home. I look at it. It's a themed party. Now, I love themed parties, and I go all out on these parties, right? But I'm looking at it, and it's called the End of the World Party. And like somebody said, oh, I'm coming as a zombie. And then somebody specifically claimed Lara Croft Tomb Raider. And I'm like, man, these people are really getting into this. They're taking it seriously. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't really have anything, and it's too late to go shopping, but I don't want to go not as dressed as anything. So I think about it. The previous year, I had been Rosie the Riveter for Halloween. I had a navy shirt. I had the official bandana, the little button. And then back in my mind, I'm like, Rosie the Riveter could probably kick some zombie ass. So I decide if I go to the party, that's what I'm going to go dressed as. So the night of the party rolls around, and I'm sitting at home, and I'm really tired. I worked 5 jobs. I went to school full time, but I decide, fine, I'm going to go. So I start to get dressed. Part 2 of the End of the World Party. So now I'm dressed as Rosie the Riveter, ready to kick some zombie ass. But it's kind of late, and I'm kind of tired. So I decide, even though it's walking distance, I'm just going to jump in a cab. Therefore, I'm not going to stop at a liquor store. I check out what I have. At the time, I was working for the Blind Wine Lady. Now, this wasn't a bottle of our wine, but instead it was like a really nice bottle of wine that I just happened to have laying around. So I decide I'm going to take it. Go downstairs. I get in a cab. I get there. I buzz. Somebody lets me up. It's a 5th floor walk up. I get up to the party. It's like blaring music. I open the door. The second thing I notice is that I don't think everyone at this party is exactly 21. It feels like a very young party, and that kind of has me backpedaling a little bit because I don't want to be involved. I am of age. But the first thing that I notice is that nobody, and I mean nobody else, is dressed in a costume. Now, it's not that bad because I just have my bandana, but I'm feeling embarrassed, but I'm not going to whip it off. So I'm like, all right, just play it cool, whatever. I go into the kitchen to make myself a drink to open my bottle of wine. And I noticed that they have like the cheapest vodka possible and then a bunch of Sunny Delight. And that's what everybody's drinking, which also freaked me out. Part 3 of the End of the World Party. So these kids are drinking like the cheapest vodka possible mixed with Sunny Delight, which still makes me giggle. And I have this very expensive bottle of wine, but it's all I have. So I open it up. I pour half a solo cup, and then I decide to go look for my friend. Well, I find her. She's in the living room grinding up on some girl. Music is blaring. There's like people are smoking pot. Like the whole thing is just like filled with smoke. There's a balcony, which has way too many people on this balcony. Like I'm pretty sure it's going to break. And then I realize how much older I am than everybody, that I'm worrying about the stability of this balcony, and also the people are underage and I'm not. Anyhow, she sees me, she runs over, she gives me a hug, and then she's like, are you in costume? Did you really wear a costume? What are you? What is that? Doesn't understand it. Nobody gets it. Everybody's like, what's happening? Now I'm like the center of attention. I'm completely sober. Everybody's like wasted. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get out of here. Maybe I'll just stay for a little bit. And then this girl walks into the kitchen holding my super expensive bottle of wine. And she's like, guys, somebody left a bottle of wine in the kitchen. And then just starts chugging it. And it's like dripping down her face. And I was like, I'm just going to run to the bathroom. And I just left and went home. I was too old for that. I met this couple at a bar in New York City, and we hit it off. And it turned out the husband was on a cooking reality show. And at first they thought I was a groupie, and then they realized I had no idea who he was. And at the end of the night, the woman gave me her number and told me to keep in touch. Well, a few months later, my cousin moved to New York City, and he's living on my couch, and I'm helping him get on his feet again. And I remember he has restaurant experience. So I reach out to the woman because her husband is the head chef at a very popular New York City restaurant. And through the wife, the husband says, this is great. Send him in on Monday morning. I have a lot of positions open. If I can help him, I definitely will. So I tell my cousin, this is a huge opportunity. We can't blow it. Monday morning, he gets all ready. I make sure he knows where he's going, and then I go to work. A few hours later, he calls me and he says, hey, that guy no longer works there. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I talked to him 2 days ago. And he's like, I don't know. They're telling me he doesn't work there. And I'm like, you must be at the wrong place. So he goes outside, he takes a picture. He's at the right place. So I reach out to the wife, and I'm like, I'm sorry. Did I misunderstand something? Because my cousin's at the restaurant. And she replies with funeral arrangements. The guy had a heart attack the night before, and the restaurant was in shock, and they weren't telling my cousin he didn't work there. They were saying he's no longer with us. I had just started dating this guy. Like, we had only been out a couple of times, and I went to watch him play kickball. He was on a league with some friends of his. And afterwards, we went back to his apartment so we could shower and change before we went out to dinner. Now, I had never been to his apartment. Again, we'd only been dating for like a month. So while he was in the shower, I go snooping around his apartment, and I find a piece of mail that is addressed to both of us, like his full name plus my full name. Now, you know me, active imagination. I start going through all the scenarios, but I try to play it cool. I put the mail back, I sit down on the couch, and I wait. When he's finished getting ready, he comes into the kitchen and he says, oh, I have something to show you. And he holds up the piece of mail, and I'm like, what? What is that? And I go into the kitchen and he says, well, I'd really like to take you on a date to the New York City Transit Museum, but I went ahead and got the membership because it allows you other opportunities, like you can tour the abandoned subway systems. And he says, but I put you on the membership because it also includes kids, and I thought that maybe you'd want to take your nanny kids one day. Don't worry, I married him.